Now, the age-old tradition of telling ghost stories around the campfire has gotten a digital upgrade with creepypastas. These are scary stories or pictures that spread across message boards, becoming internet lore that is then discussed both on and offline. People around the world share their bizarre and terrifying creepypastas, hoping that the tales will gain popularity and become classics, often quoted or cited by horror fans or just frightened people online. Now, disclaimer, you will not find Slenderman on this list because that would just be a cop-out. Come on now. What is up, you guys? I hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and welcome back to another video. And today, we are going to talk about the top 10 scary creepypasta urban legends. Starting us off at number 10 is the Russian sleep experiment. A staple of the best creepypasta lists everywhere, the Russian sleep experiment is pretty infamous. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard of this story, but if you haven't, grab your popcorn because it is dark. Now, shortly after World War II, 5 political prisoners were subjected to an experiment in which they had to remain awake for 30 days in a tank filled with an experimental gas. As with most science gone wrong stories, the test subjects began to lose their minds among a number of other gruesome symptoms. The horror did not even end when the experimenters tried to save their subjects. Actually, far from it. Just know that the story may not be appropriate if you're squeamish or just dislike gore in general, as the narrative goes into very graphic detail about the physical state of the patients. I would go into it a lot more, but I don't want to have any spoilers for any subs that haven't read the story yet. Read it and then come back to me. Coming in at number 9 is Cove. Now, there are way too many bizarre children's TV show creepypastas, and I do mean many. Some of the stories describe alleged lost episodes of shows we know and love, where the episode is something out of your worst nightmare. They really do open up a whole new can of worms. It's not even funny. Either way, Cove is a story written by Chris Straub, detailing the quest of a few nostalgia-driven adults as they attempt to piece together their memories of a much-loved television show, the titular Cove. The real beauty of Cove is in its form. Written as a thread from an online forum, it plays both the realism card and doles out new information piece by piece in a masterfully gripping fashion. I rate it, honestly. At number 8, we have Jeff the Killer, and this kid just creeps me out like no other. I simply just can't deal with looking at the image of him. Like, I would not want to see him in my dreams, in an alleyway at night, even in broad daylight. It's not happening. If you've never laid eyes on the infamous image of Jeff the Killer before, consider yourself lucky. The basic story concerns Jeff, a serial killer who hides in the closet and whispers "go to sleep" to its victim before slaughtering everyone in the household. Even more disturbing than his MO is his appearance. His face is smooth and stark white. He has a huge grin that's a bit too wide for my liking, and he has small, lidless eyes. He's one of the most easily recognizable creepypastas, with his eerie stare just posted across every forum you can find. Now, apparently, he ended up looking the way he does because he was involved in a fight that resulted in a chemical burn on his face, which then caused him to suffer a mental break. Soon after that, he murdered his whole family, obviously as you do, and then disappeared into the night to make guest appearances in your nightmares. Welcome, Jeff. Filling number 7 slot is Jane Doe. I love a mysterious Jane Doe on the list. They're always just fun, aren't they? Now, this one for sure has to be one of the creepiest, most skin-crawling viral tales out there. It's so elegantly simple and visceral, just very grotesque, that it's been stuck in my consciousness for years after I read it the first time. It describes a mute Jane Doe patient admitted to Cedars-Sinai Hospital back in June of 1972, whose smooth, pale, mannequin-like face terrified the staff, so much so that many were afraid to even tend to her. When she was finally sedated and a doctor approached her, she smiled at him, revealing a mouthful of razor-sharp pointed teeth. And you can probably imagine what happened next. The story was likely inspired by a photograph by Anthony Armstrong Jones titled "Student Nurses with Waxwork Patient" from his 1972 book Assignments. Now, that image is almost always included with the article wherever it's shared, and I've even seen it. And it's very creepy. Now, at number 6 is Robert the Doll. Now, this story is fully true, and I've covered it a few times on the channel now already, so if you haven't heard of it, now's the time. But the myths surrounding him vary, especially since it became so popular on the internet. The doll was given to artist Robert Eugene Otto in the late 1800s or early 1900s by a servant working in his family home. The doll, which he named after himself, narcissistic much, then took on a life of its own and began to terrorize his family. Otto is said to have kept the doll late into his adulthood, and it subsequently tormented his late wife to insanity. When the doll was found by another family, the girl to whom it was given was so terrified of it, she refused to have it in her room. The doll is now currently residing in the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. Now, visitors must ask Robert politely if they do want to take his photo. If they mock him or take his photo without permission, Robert is said to lay a curse on them. Ugh, Robert, leave me alone. Coming in at number 5 is the Grifter. One persistent theme among creepypastas is the rumor of this forbidden video. This trope is usually an account of homemade footage, an experimental film, or an excerpt from a TV broadcast which will have a diabolical effect on the viewer. If you watch it, you'll be driven insane or even die shortly afterward. Now naturally, the alleged footage is never shown, only described, further fueling the mythical nature of the tale. Now one example which originated, as many of them do, on a 4chan image board is the story of the Grifter, a video which reportedly contains footage of dead or dying infants intercut with tracking shots from an unknown location, creepy dolls, and other bizarre visuals. Yeah, miss me with that shit. At number 4 is the Lost Episode. Now there are quite a few legends circulating of lost episodes or rare outtakes from TV shows that suggest the creators of those programs might have dabbled in the occult or mind-altering technology, or just part of a satanic cult in general. But the most prominent among these lost episodes is Squidward's Suicide, a video wherein the gloomy SpongeBob SquarePants character finally gives in to all his angst and sadness and takes his own life. But not before a montage of horrific images, bleeding eyes, demonic laughter, and subliminal inserts, including, per one account, camcorder footage of murdered children. Another account involves a vintage Mickey Mouse short in which the iconic rodent, looking sad and confused, walks aimlessly through an increasingly surreal landscape, his face and body eventually distorting as the soundtrack descends into a cacophony of screams. As with similar legends, the original clip has been conveniently scrubbed from the internet, though a few intrepid filmmakers have tried to make their own versions. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but sure. Filling our number 3 slot is the Smile Dog. Like Jeff the Killer, this bizarre meme involves a photoshopped image, and in this case it's a grainy photo of a dog, usually depicted as a Siberian Husky, bearing its horribly human-like teeth in a deranged smile. Now this photo also comes with a lengthy backstory, usually involving a woman named Mary E, who claims to have been driven to madness by opening a JPEG image file of the dog. To add to the horror, the author of the meme usually includes an epilogue stating that the real Smile Dog image has never been posted on the internet, and what's being circulated is only a recreation of the original. Now to view the actual picture, you'd apparently drive the viewer to the same fate as the woman in the story, who, per the author, finally committed suicide as well. Now, number 2 is the man. Yeah, this guy, insert the image of the drawn face. His picture looks creepy enough, but what about all the people who claim to have been visited by him in their dreams despite having never seen him before? The website thisman.org purports to be a forum for people all over the world who believe they have seen the thick-browed, faintly grinning face when they go to sleep. The site contains drawings and other renderings of the man allegedly submitted by those visited by him, as well as photos of flyers asking, "Ever seen this man?" posted around the world. The site's creators deny the project is a marketing ploy or social experiment, but do claim that unknown parties have attempted to shut them down on several occasions, and their updates mysteriously just stopped in 2011. But don't worry, because he's on Facebook now. Not that anyone uses it, but there you go. And finally, at number 1 is the Secure, Contain, and Protect Foundation, aka the SCP Foundation. Now, I feel like Che and Rebecca have done so many videos on the SCP Foundation that you guys already know what to expect. Anyway, the SCP Foundation is a fictional organization with a murky past which first appeared back in 2007. The Foundation has numerous doctors, researchers, and agents aiming to understand and catalog abnormal creatures and objects which are known simply as SCPs. The Foundation strives to prevent the SCPs from getting into the hands of others and into the outside world. In order to research these creatures, the Foundation performs experiments on death row inmates. SCP-173 was a creature that started it all, the OG. It's described as a statue-like creature with a bloody face and short limbs. It has also been recorded that this creature cannot move in direct eyesight, but once eye contact is broken, it will immediately kill its victim by breaking their neck, and thus it has to be constantly observed. Another example is SCP-682, which is said to be an indestructible, highly adaptive reptilian creature. It's one of the most popular creatures on the SCP Wiki, and I'm not trying to meet this. I'm not trying to meet this creature. And that is it for today's video, guys. I feel like I'm not much of a creepypasta person myself. I feel like I researched so many scary stories for the channel that I'm not trying to read creepypastas in my spare time at home. You know what I mean? Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!